So I know it has been a little minute since I put up my last video. If you missed the last video, then you know that I have officially announced that I'm working on my second book. So throughout this past month, I have really been trying to focus on getting the book written, or at least making some progress on it, and also growing my coaching business as well. So that's why things have been a little bit quiet over here, but I'm excited for what I have for you today. So if you missed the last video, then I highly suggest you hit pause on this one and go back to that one, because none of this will make any sense if you missed the last video. And I'll be sure to leave a link to it in the description as well. But like I mentioned, the last video I announced that I'm working on book number 2. I talked about a lot of like the struggles and like the mission and just there's some things that I had to get through myself mentally in order to really process me working on this book. I mentioned before that book number 2 is definitely nothing like my first book. So my first book was a how-to book. It was all about blogging and growing your blog as a business, and it's something that was really comfortable for me. But book number 2 is on topics that I usually don't talk about. It's on topics that I know I've definitely experienced myself and gotten through and still dealing with as well. But as far as like openly talking about it, it's definitely in a different ballpark than what I'm used to. So I've had to personally get over a lot of struggles myself in order to make this thing real. But I definitely promised you guys that I would take you through this entire process with me. So I want to take you through the writing process. I want to take you through the marketing, the launching, choosing my book cover, all of that once I get to it. But today I wanted to simply just talk about the outline, because for me, getting the outline done was like something worth celebrating. I have had this idea to write this book since last June, so almost a year now, and I'm just now getting a completed outline done. So I definitely feel like I hit a milestone in this process. So as of right now, I have like 8 typed out pages for the outline. I have like little scribble marks all over it, so a whole bunch of little notes and things that I want to change or add in about it. But for me, getting this outline done is giving me somewhat peace of mind, because it's taking this big crazy idea that I had and it's making it real. It's giving it some structure, and I feel like it's actually forming something that I'm going to potentially be able to hold in my hand and launch to the world. So I just wanted to kind of take you through this process of how I came up with this outline. Even if you're not writing a book, the same process can be used to outline your e-course. The same process can be used to outline an ebook, a workshop, whatever it is that you may be working on. You can use the same process that I went over. I actually teach this too in my printed passive product class to my students. So same process can be used for anything that you may be creating. So the first thing that I did was I literally wrote it on, or typed on a piece of paper, was my main topic of my book. So I just simply wrote, helping creative women get through the mental blocks that hold them back from success and to help them live on purpose. So what you'll want to do is write down your topic or your book's main focus, so that everything that you create below that, you want to make sure it ties back into the topic at hand. The next thing I did was I thought about the top 10 questions that someone in my audience or someone who will be reading this book may have about the topic. So what questions would my audience have about the different mental blocks that hold them back from success and how to live on purpose? So I wrote down things like, what does it mean to live on purpose? How do you begin living on purpose? How do you figure out what you're being called to do? I wrote down things like how to get through fear, how to manage that inner voice and get over self-doubt, how to get through comparison. So I literally just sat there and brainstormed the top 10 questions that someone may have regarding my book topic. And you can definitely do more questions if you have like a really healthy book topic or a product topic that you feel like it's going to have a whole lot of questions. And depending on also where you want to start in that book process. You can definitely have more than 10 questions, but for me, it was helpful to just simply write out and get clear on my book's topic, and then to simply just write down the top 10 questions that someone may have about that topic. So what's going to happen here is that those 10 topics are actually going to serve as your book chapters. So chapter number 1 could easily be, what does it mean to live on purpose? Chapter number 2 could easily be how to, figure out what you're being called to do, or figuring out what you're passionate about. So each of those 10 questions that you write down are going to serve as a new section or a new chapter within your book or your product. The next thing that I did, since now I have these questions, of course, I need to go back and answer them. So in bullet points, I just went through each question and I just went and answered those questions within bullet points. So I didn't stress too much about creating perfect sentences. I wasn't worried about using the perfect words or punctuation. I simply just went and jotted down some ideas of how I would answer that question if I was talking to a client, if I was talking to even one of my readers. How would I sit there and answer that question? So for each of those 10 questions, or however many you have, simply go through and put bullet points under each of you just simply answering those questions. So those bullet points are going to serve as, we'll call it the meat of your book or the meat of your product. So it makes it a lot more simple to get your ideas out in little bullet points, little quick thoughts, so that you're not stressing about, oh my gosh, this sentence isn't perfect, or, I don't think it should be there. This is just the outline. A lot of writers from, doing different research, I've read that a lot of writers take time on their outline because they know it's going to change. So you have to be open to things changing, your idea going a different way than what you originally thought it would go in. So this is just simply to give you a good starting point or some good structure to get started with. So don't stress too much. So you have your topic, you've written down the top 10 questions someone may have about that topic, and now you've gone through and answered each one of those questions within bullet points. So now the last thing you'll want to do is you'll go back through that outline and you'll want to add in any personal stories. So whether that be your story, stories of other people that you've worked with, stories of people that you know, you want to add that in. You want to add in any examples. So if you're doing like a how-to type of project, you want to add in examples of how this certain strategy worked, or you want to add in like some statistics to back up your opinion. So go back through and add in any stories, any quotes, any examples that are really going to help you back up what you're saying. So I read somewhere today that, sharing your story is going to be the best way for people to connect with you. And I wholeheartedly believe that. That's one of the things that I teach in my one of my online classes too, is that telling your story is going to be one of the best ways for your audience to connect with you. So go back through and just fill in, any stories that you may have, stories from other people. Throughout this outline, I have to actually go back through journals that I had written in years ago, just to put me back into like that time and place of some of these things that I had been experiencing. I really want this book to be as transparent as possible, and I know that can be hard, and I know sometimes we try to kind of block out some of the things that we've gone through, just because of, they may not have been the best of experiences. But going back through old journals has been really helpful for me. So if you're someone who has been journaling for a while, go back to those old journals and just kind of see, what was it that you were going through? Or even if you were keeping a blog or some type of like digital journal, definitely go back through some of those and then fill in your outline with any examples, stats, stories that you can think of to really back up your topic. So again, like I said, I simply just made sure that I had a really good topic that I wanted to focus my book around. I then jotted down 10 of the biggest questions that I felt like my audience would have about that topic. And then under those 10 questions, I answered those questions with simple bullet points. So not really worrying about structure. I just went down and just kind of brainstormed different answers that I could give for those topics. And then I went back and I wrote in different stories that I want to tell. I went back and added in any examples that I wanted to share, just to kind of back up that content as well. And after I did all of that, I have literally 8 pages, and probably more if I were to count the notes on the side, worth of an outline. So now that I have this outline, of course, like I mentioned before, some things are going to change. This is not all going to stay the same, but now I have like some structure, and I can actually sit down and begin to break apart those chapters as well, and begin writing. One of the things I wanted to mention too, just from my experience of writing my first book, is that don't feel the need to write every single chapter in order, because I feel like some chapters are going to be easier than others to kind of write. So if you feel like you want to jumble around, if you want to like kind of pick and choose what you want to work on, this is your process. I'm learning that myself, that I can't write this book based on somebody else's process or someone else's writing habits. So it's definitely going to be important for you to kind of find like your own thing, your own groove, but definitely write what you feel, I don't want to say called, but write what you feel pushed to write in the moment, and it definitely makes the writing process a lot easier. But this outline is definitely going to be a great starting point for you. I don't have a actual release date for the book yet. I mentioned before that I'm just kind of taking my time with it, praying through it, and just waiting for the words to come to me. But you will definitely be the next to know on the next milestone I hit throughout this entire process. So I'll be sure to keep you guys updated. And I will chat with you later. Bye.